I'm doing this and I realized I was supposed to do this in landscape and not portrait. Next time, sorry about that. Anyway, so what happened is some dude put out this article, Can Comic Books Survive the Wu Flu Era? It's a pretty basic article, and it was a pretty softball treatment. It boils down to it's a business on thin margins, but they don't say why the margins are so thin. They just kind of slip past that issue, and that they are worried that if people stop buying comics for a few weeks, they'll probably move on to something else, which is a fair assessment. But it also means that they aren't confident in their ability to attract fans. Another issue is that once the stores shift over to another product, why would they want to go back to comics, which is a good point? Why go into a shrinking industry when you can go into a growing one? Anyway, a few points. I noticed some people criticizing that Star Wars Girls Vampirella cover. I looked at it. I thought it was pretty good. And no, I'm not a white knight. I don't even listen to her channel. Chicks on YouTube are really boring, except for one, Mecha Random 42. I like the art on this, but where are her nipples? And to each their own. If you don't like it, cool. But I think Renfamous is just looking to score points with her crowd. I like the art because it's so over the top. It's purposefully ridiculous. It's a change of pace from the approved body types. Next, the Ribbit Coin Ripoff. Love or hate people, everybody deserves due process. It looks like a simple mistake to me. Don't attribute to moral turpitude that which can be explained by a misunderstanding of the contract. But he will be explaining his side of it on a live stream on Vickyverse's channel on Monday night. I will put the link below. So in this New York Times article, this guy interviews all these mainstream SJWs, the very people who destroy the industry. G. Willow Wilson, Rich Johnson, a bunch of others. Gee, I wonder why he didn't interview EVS, Richard C. Meyer, Doug Knaple, John Malin. Someone compared the Wu Flu to 911. They called it an extinction-level event. And someone said that the difference was that we loved comics in the year 2000. We hate most of them today. Part of the difference is social media. We didn't know what racist assholes comic people were back then. They should never have given them Twitter. These people were always far left. But with, oh, dear God. But with, you look like you're so proud of yourself. But with social media, they have reinforced their narrative of hatred. They kept going further and further left. Then 2015 happened, stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. A generation of every kid gets a trophy. Finally being told that, no, you can't always get your way. They grew into adults that wanted to use comics as a vector for propaganda, i.e. Mark Wade. Then they get pissed off when sales took a hit. Why don't you white devils buy our comics? And if you don't like our politics, don't buy our comics. No problem, Kelly Sue. Nobody is buying Bitch Planet. It was 10 issues of absolute dog poop. It was meant to go for 30 issues. And these women were so happy with Bitch Planet that they went out and got tattoos for this comic that went 10 issues. And then it got canceled. Because even though it was stunning and brave, for some strange reason, they couldn't take the money out of their wallet and buy the comic, because when it comes down to it, it's garbage. And Aquaman wasn't any better, but at least you got to take a picture with Brie Larson, so that's something to be proud of. It's weird how a billion-dollar film didn't translate into comic sales. Captain Marvel has been canceled a dozen times, but that wasn't the real Captain Marvel. It'll do better next time. Anyway, Heather Antos, and I didn't like wait for these images. I just screen captured the first random 3 shots I came across. How do you ever make an expression like that? I am unfamiliar with an industry where the salesmen routinely insult the customers. Heather Antos hates Christians and Americans. Then if a customer gives her a little feedback, she blocks them. She's working for Valiant now. I'm not sure what exactly that means in the era of the Wu Flu when comics aren't really going out. I guess they're doing digital. It's funny, she left a gambling website to go back to comics a month before China pulled the rug out from under them. She did a video for Valiant where she got ratioed by people explaining why they won't buy Valiant because of people like her. And would she have more or less dignity if that was a sex toy? Someone called her a C dumpster, and some SJW called Nasser a C rag, but the rules don't seem to apply to SJWs. Anyway, so Leah Williams, writer of X Factor, Gwenpool, Amazing Mary Jane, she does a little damage control for industry that died in 2 weeks. Hey, comics fan, if you read that New York Times article that came out today about our industry dying across the board right now, please don't let it make you feel despair. It's just a short piece on how the pandemic has uniquely affected us, so it leaves out all the positive actions being taken. Interesting. She says that, she goes on to say that behind the scenes, Marvel is handling things. But I have a question. If you haven't been handling things for the past 20 years, how are you going to fix them now? Maybe it's the far-left, racist, misandrist propaganda in the stories and the treatment of the customers. Do you think that may have something to do with it? They will never admit that. Their whole universe is built on hatred. They will double down and blame the customers and never blame the writers for the cancer they print. They have a fundamentally different worldview. It's sort of a left versus right divide. The left wants you to buy what they want you to read. The right wants to sell you what you want. That's why Comicsgate is successful. People are willing to pay a pretty serious premium for comics that don't lecture them on the patriarchy. And imagine selling comic books to a 95% male audience and telling men that they're the problem. The thing is that people in the industry now, they cannot be saved. They need to be replaced. Simply fire everyone and hire right-of-center people. In the age of Trump derangement syndrome, it is the only option. Comic book stores are going to reopen any day now. People are getting very tired of quarantine. I think by the end of April, some states have just said that we're just going to go back to business as usual. You know, we'll wear masks and try to distance, but, you know, business has got to go on. We can't just stop for months on end. So comics are going to start back up again, and everything will go right back to the woke trash it has been for the last 20 years, except now you'll have less infrastructure in place, and every year you'll continue to have less infrastructure in place. So congratulations on that. Where you have this slow attrition or rot of the industry, they will have learned absolutely nothing because these NPCs can't change their programming. Returnability is what will change everything. That creates a merit-based system. What it means is that diversity hires will be fired in a few months. Either you sell or you get fired. No more cancel a comic, wait for a few months, then rehire the same insane writer, scenic race, or move them over to something else that won't sell. Maybe, and you know, it's like, to be fair, while he wasn't meant for Iceman, his Ghosted in L.A. Seems to be kind of more up his alley. It's not a good book for me, but I think it would appeal to more people than Iceman would, because at least it's a new character. Anyway, so maybe, honestly, just cancel and fire everyone that sells under 40,000 issues a month. And respect diversity of thought. If diversity is your strength, if that's what you believe, then you need to hire far-right, and Christians to write stories. You guys are stuck in a far-left echo chamber. An echo chamber means that someone comes up with a bad idea. Hey, we need a gay, trans, Muslim, etc. Then everyone claps and says, oh yes, that is absolutely what we need. If I was there, I would explain that no, the demographic is too small. As a return on investment, it's a super low yield. Sell to your biggest audience. And your biggest audience is 95% male. I mean the people who buy the comics. I know they did a study where they said, oh, well, if women read half the comics. Okay, that's great. But who buys the comics? That's the most critical thing. What happens after that, secondary and tertiary markets, is something else entirely. Believe it or not, little black or Latina girls are not a big part of your audience, and neither is LGBT. The numbers just aren't there. And that's not to say that little black or Latino boys aren't a big part of your audience, because girls in general are just not a big part of your audience. The issue with the industry is that they do not want to change. They're making a living selling their racist hatred. But every year, comic book stores go out of business, and that infrastructure that is essential for distributing the product gets just decimated every year. And so you're going to have, it's going to be like a death spiral. Anyway, so this one guy, James Dean Anderson, made an interesting comment about professionalism. I'm going to take a quick look at that. He says, wasn't this the same girl that recently said Americans are the worst fans? How the crap does she still have a job? Yes, she did. And this guy gives him tries to defend her, and then he says, learn to comprehend. You don't even say that kind of negative BS when you work in a corporate setting or in any time you're selling anything. In the entertainment and publishing fields, you never go negative in public. It trashes the brand and costs investors money they could probably use right now. And, I'll say that applies to a lot of industries or a lot of associations, clans, tribes, communities, like Comicsgate. If you have an issue, like right now, EVS and the Quarter are having some kind of issue, maybe handle it privately. Mike and EVS were having issues. Again, maybe handle it privately. You got a telephone number. I assume you guys have each other's phone numbers. Call up, talk to each other, and say, hey, let's just keep this between us. And talk on the phone. Don't talk in text messages. Pick up the phone, talk in person. Communication is not the same when it's written. Anyway, Ms. Antos is just a human being. I don't care about politics or sweater ads or milkshakes. I care how you treat fans and what you sell them. No corporate representative says some of the black, white, straight, gay, Christians, atheist fans are the worst. They all pay the bills. I'm out. Seems like a pretty obvious thing to say, but it also feels like he's the only adult in a room full of children. But the thing is, these aren't children. These are all adults. They're all in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. But they're all acting like children. This right here, if I was at any of these Valiants or Dark Knights, Marvels or DCs, any of these type of things, yeah, I would just cut this out and hand this over to everyone or put it on the wall somewhere and say, listen, we're going to have to start acting like adults. Period. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. You want to get hold of me, send me an email at BiancaZombie602. If you want me to edit your comment, your Comicsgate project, send me a digital copy and I will edit a few passages and I'll make a video out of it. They don't get a whole lot of views, but I really love editing. It makes me feel like just a small, petty, vindictive god, and it's a lot of fun. Anyway, I will see you guys all next episode. Oh, click the links if you need to get a hold of me or send me something through the P.O. box.